My name is Kimberly Sheehan and I am the campaign manager here at The Reading Agency. The Reading Agency is a UK charity with a mission to empower everyone to read. Evidence shows that reading improves health and well-being, life chances and social connections. And the Reading Agency champions access to the proven power of reading by providing activities for all ages. We're thrilled to have 4 sessions as part of our annual Children's and Young People Publisher Roadshow, quite a mouthful, where 17 publishers and 4 authors will be joining us live across the day, with many more speaking to you via videos. This roadshow is for publishers and authors to share amazing books they would love libraries to engage with in the year ahead. This year, we are also thrilled to have programme teams at the Reading Agency sharing updates and opportunities for you. These will all be after the Q&A, so please do stay on the call to hear more. Each year, we host our nationwide roadshow where publishers and librarians can come together to build relationships and discuss some of the most exciting books coming out. Those of you who booked your ticket before Monday would have received your delegate pack. If not, I'm just going to put in the chat here. And then go back there. So everyone who didn't receive their delegate pack, you now have it. In there, you will see there is a link to a request form for the end of the day, so you can send your requests across to publishers. There is also in there a link to the publisher folders. That link will go live on Monday morning, where you will also have all of the recordings. There are going to be videos shown throughout the day. These can occasionally lag, but as I said, you will have access to all of the slides after the event, so you can watch them then. We would love for you to use the chat box to talk to each other throughout the session. Please do let us know where you are joining us from. And there is also a Q&A box after each publisher has presented. We will be running the Q&A and ask as many questions as possible. But to start our day, I'm thrilled to introduce Sheila Bennett, Head of Library Strategy and Delivery at DCMS, who's going to welcome us all. Over to you, Sheila.
Hello, hi. Welcome, everyone. You might be saying, why am I here? In DCMS, my job is to advocate for libraries and also to support them. We're always looking with a lot of interest at what TRA is doing to spread the word about reading so positively. We've worked with them very directly. So in those dark COVID days that hopefully we're all beginning to try and forget, we managed, working with TNA, to get over 300,000 books out in 3 months to branches across England to boost access to the Reading World Books on Prescription mental health lists for adults, but also for children and young people. So that's a great example of harnessing the positive power of reading at a point when everyone so needed it. Welcome. It's so wonderful to be able to welcome the publishers and the authors that are here, and also the library staff. I mean, between the two of you, you are absolutely the lifeblood of public libraries. I mean, libraries are amazing places. So the staff, you are so loved. You are so loved. In the Ipsos Veracity Index a year or so back, the librarians were the 3rd most trusted profession in the country. You were only beaten by nurses and airline pilots, which I guess, you know, if you're in the position where you need either of them, that's relatively reassuring. So yeah, they're also everywhere. Within England, we deal with England, not the devolved administrations. There are nearly 3,000 branches across the country. They're unparalleled. They're loved. 75% of people in the country say how important libraries are, even though at that stage only 25% of people were ranking themselves as active users. You're probably the only universal free space in a community where people of all ages and backgrounds can come together. And you help people learn, you inspire them, and most importantly, and often everyone forgets them with the worthy stuff that you say, to have fun and to have a real enjoyment and entertainment. So I spend a lot of time when I try to advocate for libraries across government and beyond with people saying, but they're all closing, aren't they? And no one uses libraries anymore, do they? Well, they're used. Our recent participation survey in DCMS showed that they were used by nearly 1/3 of the adult population. That's growing as well. That was up 6% from the previous year. And also we know that those adults, a lot of them are saying that they bring along children to there. So, you know, this is hardly a sector that is you know, irrelevant or yeah, that no one uses. I hit back on that one very hard. It really annoys me. So I mean, I hope that publishers, you see the value that libraries provide to you, because for so many people, they're the absolute entry point to enjoyment of reading. We all do reading at school, but maybe some of us don't necessarily enjoy it so much. It enables you to try out new authors or genres. I've certainly switched on to authors by browsing around in a library and sort of thinking that looks interesting and trying it because I can, and because I don't have to make a big investment in money to do that. And then probably I go off and then buy books from that author to give to people, or, you know, we're all being evangelical, haven't we? This is so marvelous, I'm going to buy copies of this and give it to all my friends at Christmas. And above all, you know, from the point of view of reading, you, the children's librarians that are here, and you, the authors that are catching children's imagination, you, the publishers that are getting this stuff out, are actually building a lifelong habit. I mean, I certainly found that from my earliest days, devouring everything that the children's library had to offer. I was one of those kids that sort of took out 6 books and turned up again sort of a couple of days later to get another 6 books out, particularly in the holidays. They enabled me to fuel my passion for history, which got me to university, and then in turn, you know, they enabled me to help my children to understand just how amazing reading can be and how it can take you into different places, different experiences, and effectively give you a resource for life. I was interested to hear that the 2024 Summer Reading Challenge alone saw 13 million books taken out over that short period while it runs. I mean, that's not a bad score at a time when we are reading very scary research about a decline in reading for enjoyment. So, you know, all power to you, TRA, all power to you, publishers and authors, for inspiring children to you know, have that sort of habit. And I would say, wouldn't I, of course, all power to you, those people who are working in libraries are absolutely inspiring and enthusing a generation. I won't keep you from the important business of the Roadshow. You want to talk to each other, not to listen to me. But I really hope that everyone here gets mutual benefit from this now, but also in the future. So thanks very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Sheila. That was a really lovely way to kick off the day. And now I'm going to hand over to Tim from Bloomsbury Children's Books and author Larry Hayes.
Thank you. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, really excited to be introducing you all to Larry today, who you might know is the author of the Laugh Out Loud Award-nominated How to Survive series. But Bloomsbury Children is so excited to be publishing Larry's new book on the 2nd of January, The Nightmares of Finnegan Quick. It's gross out, it's gory, it's a fun horror story. We're all obsessed with it. It's also available to request now on NetGalley. So without further ado, handing over to Larry.
Hello, everybody. I'm Larry Hayes. I'm here to talk about this new book. I don't know if you can see that, or it's blurry. The Nightmares of Finnegan Quick. It's the first in a series that's coming out with Bloomsbury. Comes out, this is a fake copy. It's actually a copy of Sebastian Faulks with the cover strapped round, because the review copies don't come out until next week. And then it's published on January the 2nd next year. And it's basically for tweens and teens. It's the end of primary school, year 5 and 6, 9, 10-year-olds, all the way up to 15. And we call it a comedy horror, or a horror comedy, because it's designed to be as scary. It's designed to be properly creepy and scary, but also equally funny. And so we can never decide whether it's a horror comedy or a comedy horror. But in a sentence, it's a paranormal mystery adventure where three teens basically have to face their deepest, darkest fears in order to save Finn's gran, who's his last living relative. And I wanted to share today a little bit about how I came to create this. And because, like all ideas, it started with a problem. Oh, should we just play the video? Should we just do that? Sorry, I forgot about the video. Sorry. sorry about that. I should have started with that. But as I was saying, the idea, I wanted to talk about why I wrote this book, this series, and it all starts with this problem. Now, he's a bit older than this now. He's actually 9.5. And Johnny he really enjoys reading, but he won't pick up a book. And it's tempting to say, oh, he's a lazy reader. It definitely is tempting. But what actually is happening is, because if he's in a car on a long journey, trapped there with just books, he will read absolutely everything and he will love it. But in the real world, there are just too many distractions. And that's part of Johnny's problem. So it really needs to be something that sucks him in to get him engaged. Like all reluctant readers, we're worried that as he gets older, 10, 11, 12, etc., it's going to be harder and harder to get him to read because the distractions just get bigger and bigger. And so what Johnny, like many reluctant readers, need is, well, what in particular wants. He loves gory, he loves thriller, he loves creepy. It can't be too serious, so he wants it light. If it's not funny, Johnny will say it's a waste of time. And so this was the kind of, I was thinking, what book would get Johnny to read? And that's pretty much how it all started off with Finnegan Quick. That and my other problem, which is this 11-year-old who, she's the opposite to Johnny. She's not a reluctant reader. She reads a book every 5 minutes and she wants to read everything. She wants to read every genre: murder, mystery, sci-fi, historical, fantasy, absolutely everything. She's always looking for something a bit different. And so we gave her the brilliant Crater Lake by Jennifer Killick, that series, and she loved it. And then she wanted something a little bit spookier, a little bit higher up the horror ladder. And so we tried to write, so she went for Coraline and the Graveyard Book and Neil Gaiman. And then she kind of struggled to find some horror that was the right level, but also had, proper characters and characters she could invest in, a proper meaning to the story as well. So that was the other clue that there might be something for me to write in this space, which brings me to my third and final clue, which was from school visits. Now, I do a lot of creative writing workshops, I grandly call them, but they're basically a chance for the kids to, in a kind of choose your own adventure style way, create a story, live action. We have some kids up on the stage performing it as the characters, and then the audience, we kind of pause the story, and then the audience will decide what's going to happen next in the story. And so it's kind of like a choose your own adventure, live action, ad-libbed on stage. And I must have done about somewhere between about 50 and 100 of these now. And I noticed that there were two key things. One was they were always funny. Funny was the major currency in everything they did. And the second thing was that they always had creepy, spooky, frightening elements. They were always basically comedy horrors. And that was my revelation I had as I was driving along thinking, why is Goosebumps so popular? What's so good about it? Because Johnny had read his first Goosebumps. And then I remembered that when I was a kid, between the ages of 8 and, it's a long time ago, which is why I'd forgotten it, but basically between the ages of 8 and 16, I was obsessed with horror and comedy horror. My brother was obsessed, my cousins, my friends, we were all obsessed. And that's probably, I'm too old to have enjoyed Goosebumps as a kid, but books like The Dark is Riding, I mean, just seeing this cover now makes me want to write horror. Love The Dark is Riding. I must have read it over 10 times. We were just obsessed with horror, and particularly comedy horror, in all media forms, whether it was movies like Abbott and Costello or Gremlins, and when we were older, things like American Werewolf in London and Nightmare on Elm Street. This is what we were obsessed with between the ages of 8 and 16. And then I basically grew up and became too scared of horror movies for adults, and so I stopped watching them. And I'd kind of forgotten how much I enjoyed it, light-hearted comedies as a kid. And so that's suddenly putting two together. I realized that what was good about the Goosebumps wasn't the horror, it was the comedy. So the best Goosebumps books aren't the scariest, they're the funniest. And I think, and there's a lot of them, just seeing some of these, there's a lot of Goosebumps books that are really funny. And so that's to bring this back to Finnegan Quick. This is my attempt at giving kids between 9 and 15 something to get really excited about. I'm confident, because he's read it, I'm confident that a reluctant reader like Johnny will be attracted by the cover, the brilliant cover, thank you, but will be drawn in from page 1 and will be driven to read it, will be glued to it throughout. But I'm also confident that confident readers like Eliza will find it funny, a bit creepy, but will also really enjoy the characters. She'll be able to relate to the characters, and she loves character-driven comedy, and there's lots of that in these books. So I'm confident that it appeals to at least those two. And from the schools I've been to, I'm kind of hopeful that it'll appeal to all sorts of children between those ages, 9 and 15. And so just really hoping you will just, if you've got a child who's looking for something a bit different, don't be afraid to wave this in front of them, because I'm really confident they'll enjoy it and get into the series. Talking of which, this, as I wrap up, this is the sneak preview of the graphics from book 2, The Fate of Finnegan Quick, which is coming out in time for Halloween next year. I think that's probably about it. I just wanted to thank the reading agency for all this. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Caitlin. And so hopefully you'll be able to find some people who will get to enjoy the Nightmares of Finnegan Quick. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Larry. That was great to hear. And you should say there is definitely an appetite for horror and comedy out there with children readers, so I know they'll love it. Thank you. And now,
brilliant. Thank you.
Going to hand over to Sarah at Farshawe.
Hello and good morning. I'm delighted to be here to tell you about a small selection of some of our very exciting titles that are coming in 2025. So if you go on to the next slide. First up, we have The Bicycle, which is a gorgeous picture book based on a true story. So Mivan actually is a refugee, and kind of before she fled Kurdistan, she was given a bicycle, and when she was grown up, she managed to find the person that donated the bike, and kind of this is a really nice story of kind of how it came into being and their friendship, and it's a really kind of lovely story, perfect for kind of Refugee Week and empathy and like promoting kindness in a really adorable picture book. And then up next we have Mina, The Misadventures of Mina Mahmood. So some of you might have heard of Farhana Islam, as she had a picture book with Penguin called Not Now Noor. So this is her debut middle grade, which is perfect for kind of 8+, and it's really highly illustrated. Farhana Islam is a teacher, and so is very tuned in. So this book takes place on a school trip, and she knows exactly how children kind of interact with each other, what their experiences are. The editor who acquired this book was just like, I wish I'd had something like this when I was a child. So it's really kind of perfect and really funny as well. And this is the start of the series. And then up next, we have another exciting debut called The Mizzy Mysteries by debut author Claire Hatcher-Smith. And this one is the latest addition to the murder mystery kind of genre, but it's got a neurodivergent heroine at its centre. So the main character, Mizzy, has Down syndrome, but she does not let that stop her, and she's definitely not going to let it stop her being a detective and solving the crime. It's a total homage to Miss Marple and that kind of detective murder mystery that we know everyone loves, and Claire has so much experience in her own career of working with children in SEN. So Mizzy is a little bit of all the children she's worked with, and it's really authentic. We're also really excited to have illustrations in the book from Lester McGugan, who is a really celebrated artist who has Down syndrome, and he's done the kind of family tree, which you'll be able to see in like final copies of the book, and then the cover, which is not here, and we're about to reveal it, so keep your eyes peeled. But the cover has also been illustrated by a neurodivergent illustrator. And here is a video from Claire to tell you a little bit more about Mizzy.
I'm Claire Hatcher-Smith, and I'm the author of the Mizzy Mysteries. I'm also a speech therapist, and I've worked with kids with Down syndrome for 30 years. And Mizzy is my attempt to give those children a hero who looks like they do. Mizzy Maple, as her name suggests, is inspired by Miss Marple. She's bright and she has a nose for mysteries nobody else has even noticed yet. And although she crashes to conclusions and she's constantly underestimated, Mizzy is determined to show the world she's actually a very brilliant detective. Mizzy's story is perfect for kids who love mysteries and sleuthing and family secrets, and also any kid who longs to be seen for who they really are. And growing up autistic, I remember what that feels like. Most of all, Mizzy is about blasting through stereotypes and never underestimating anyone, especially yourself.
And then one of our other middle grades, so you're probably all very familiar with the Land of Raw series. And in February, we are super excited to dive back into the world of Raw with a new installment from Jenny McLachlan called Dragon Riders of Raw. So if you've read the 3 books before, this is a kind of another edition. You can dive right back in, but if you've not come to the series before, this is perfect for new readers as well. So it's a nice introduction as well, and you can just pick up from a nice kind of start where it kind of recaps what's happened and how the characters came into being. And so Dragon Riders of Raw sees all your favorite characters going into a new land called the Dragonlands, where Rose is creating her own Raw story, and Rose and Arthur are living the story as they kind of experience it and imagine it. And it's Jenny used to be a teacher, and she is super passionate about kind of imagination and cultivating that creativity and kind of really allowing children to discover books that they really just want to pick up and cannot put down. Up next is probably our biggest debut of 2025. So this is perfect for boys, and we know we see boys kind of 8, 9 plus dropping off and not picking up books reading for pleasure, but this is Oliver Twist, like Oliver Twist, kind of perfect for that gap in the market. And it's really adventure packed and kind of high octane, just keeps going and keeps giving you more. And then I think on the next slide there is a video from Peter who will tell you a little bit more about the book.
Hello everyone, I'm Peter Burns, and I am absolutely thrilled to introduce you to my new book, Shadow Thieves. Writing a middle grade book like this is something that I have always wanted to do ever since I was a child, so this is a real dream come true moment. In Shadow Thieves, we meet 13-year-old orphan Tom Morgan, who is living on the streets of London, picking pockets and barely scraping by. When his friends are captured and sent to a brutal workhouse, Tom is desperate to do anything he can to help them escape. While he is scoping out the workhouse, he comes across the mysterious Corsair, who offers him the chance of a lifetime. Before Tom knows it, he has been whisked away by Zeppelin to a top secret boarding school tucked away in the snowy Alps. This is Beaufort School for Deceptive Arts, otherwise known as Thieves' School. Here, Tom learns everything from lockpicking to safe cracking to the art of disguise. Mornings begin with training runs and obstacle courses. But Tom finds himself immediately on the back foot. All the other students were born into this. They are from long lines of master criminals, and he has to use every ounce of strength and determination he has just to keep up. But even in this world of criminals, there is order and there are rules. And when Tom suspects that this order is falling apart, he discovers that a plot is afoot. Someone wants to take over not just the Shadow League, but the entire world. Can Tom stop them before disaster strikes? And what about his friends in London? Shadow Thieves is an adventure, it's a thriller, it's a boarding school caper, it's full of twists and turns and a kaleidoscope of characters. It's a huge amount of fun. It also has heart as Tom struggles with understanding who he is and how the world works when he has no real roots and no idea where he has come from. I had the most amazing time writing this book, and I hope that you have as much fun reading it. Thank you so much.
And then moving on to the Beano. So you may all know that we publish the Boomix, which is the book comics, which are hugely popular. And in 2025, we are entering the graphic novel kind of market with Betty and the Yeti, friends at first start. So we all know graphic novels are hugely kind of instrumental in getting kids and reluctant readers into books. And just kind of, we've seen the success of Bunny versus Monkey. And yeah, this is everything you kind of know and love from the nostalgic favourite of Beano. And then something a little different. So moving on to kind of more teens is Normal Women by Philippa Gregory. So this published as an adult version earlier this year, but we are adapting it for the teen readers. And we're also publishing it in hardback and paperback simultaneously, so perfect for libraries. And this kind of Philippa has done so much research on women from across England and made the kind of information that's in the adult book really accessible for teens. And it's a really empowering, kind of tells stories of all sorts of women. And then this is another exciting YA debut. So The Rose Bargain is Cruel Prince meets Bridgerton, and it is another of the amazing kind of YA books in the romantasy field, which is kind of so hot topic right now. And the excitement that we've seen for this book is unmatched. So really one to look out for those older readers.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. I'm very excited for the Betty and Yeti graphic novel. And now I'm going to hand over to Katie from Hachette, who will be introducing author Tom McLaughlin. Oh, you need to get a pencil or a pen to hand for this as well. Very exciting.
Thank you. So if you've ever wondered what an orange cat blessed with opposable thumbs and a megalomaniacal obsession with taking over the world does all day, you've come to the right place. I'm here to introduce author-illustrator Tom McLaughlin, who's joining us from his home in Devon, to talk about his brand new graphic novel, Alan, King of the Universe, which publishes in February. This laugh out loud graphic novel is aimed at children aged 7 up, but will really appeal to readers of all ages. It's getting wonderful reception from everyone we've shown it to so far, and it's really ideal for newly independent readers. So without further ado, I'm here to pass over to Tom to tell you more.
Good morning. Good morning. I hope you're well. Full disclosure, I love librarians. You're really ace. You're fantastic gatekeepers and you do so much hard work. And I know that if a school visit is involved and there's a school librarian there, then there's going to be a fresh cup of tea and, more importantly, like a plate of biscuits. And that's basically what authors need, right? So thank you very much for all your hard work, and thanks for giving me this opportunity. Another thing I love, apart from librarians, is cats. I love cats. I love how they're a kind of weird, malevolent, evil presence in your house, but they're sort of really cute as well. I love the fact that they get their own door. They get their own front door. A dog doesn't get its own front door, does it? But a cat does, and we're all fine with that. I love how cats can just sort of decide that they're going to move into the house down the road. I'm just off. I'm just going to go and live with Beryl down the road. Is that all right? Yeah, brilliant. So I've always kind of loved their weird independence. And it's like that sort of cliche, what would happen if a cat was born with thumbs? Well, I'll tell you what will happen if a cat is born with thumbs. It would take over the universe. And that's like, I'd introduce you to Alan. First of all, it's really funny that a cat with desires to take over the universe is called Alan, right? Because that's just funny in itself. So I had the idea that, you know, what would happen if a cat was born with thumbs and what it would do. So we've got little Alan here and his little sidekick Fido. Think of sort of Pinky and the Brain meets sort of Blackadder and Baldrick, that kind of dynamic, this sort of Wile E. Coyote where it kind of every story resets. So we've got about sort of 4 or 5 stories in each book. I'll give you a quick example of one of the stories. Alan wants to take over the universe. How's he going to do it? Well, obviously, he's going to invent his own country. How do you invent your own country? Well, you just go down to the post office and get a form, right? That's how you do it. So he gets his own country, Alan Land, but it comes with free entry to the Olympics. So he thinks that's a brilliant way to debut my country. He invents his own national anthem, invents his own flag. They go and do the Olympics, except it doesn't work out very well for Alan because lots of things involve kind of water and jumping, and Cat's not very good at that. So Fido gets all the honours and gets all the gold medals. So yeah, and then they have to go home and maybe they'll try again tomorrow because it's time for tea anyway. So instead of just talking about Alan, I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I thought I'd show you how I draw Alan and Fido because it's super important whenever I go around schools. I'm going to share my screen now. Is this going to work? Is the technology going to work? That I get to connect with readers, particularly reluctant readers, right? I myself am a reluctant reader and was as a kid. I have dyslexia, and I know the sort of way to connect with kids who may think that maybe reading is not for them is by sort of talking about dyslexia, talking about making kids laugh and sort of connecting through drawings. For me, the pictures inspire the words and the words inspire the pictures. I hope you've got a pencil and paper. So I'm going to show you how to draw little Alan and Fido. I'm going to start. You can see I've made a little start already because we haven't got much time. So I'm going to do a little bit of pen work here. This is something that I was at a school visit yesterday and kids absolutely love seeing people draw. It kind of really chills out a room. I've been in lots and lots of schools with quite lively groups, and you start drawing and it's sort of just everyone just kind of chills out. And I give loads of kind of drawing tips on sort of how to kind of come up with my characters, because I don't know if you can see, but basically my characters are made up of really, really simple shapes, sort of squares and rectangles and triangles. So I'm a big, strong believer in the fact that kind of everyone has the ability to draw a little bit, right? If we can draw a square, then we can draw a cat. If you can draw a rectangle and some triangles, then we've got a really good character. And if you're not kind of strong with writing, or don't believe you are, then you start by drawing cartoon characters and then start by kind of giving them stories. And that's how I started. I was a cartoonist for a long time. I was a political cartoonist, and I suddenly started to have kind of all these ideas, started doing lots of drawings. And because I was dyslexic and didn't feel like I was a strong enough writer, because my spelling's not great, my reading's not great, I kind of thought, but I want to bring these characters to life. So I think it's a hugely important thing to kind of get kids who maybe are not as confident creating. Hang on, so there we go. We're going a nice bright orange. This is kind of based on a cat, my very first cat I had called Billy, who was adorable and has this kind of lovely apricot color. And he was like, he would charm the neighborhood. And we sort of found out that he was basically, it's sort of semi-moved out down the road, and there was about 5 people feeding him, because that's kind of the way cats are, right? It's sort of, it's their world. We sort of just live in it. And do a few little things. We're almost done. Oh, I haven't done his eye. This is Fido. I love Fido as well, because Fido is kind of a bit like the kind of other hero of the story. It's sort of all, he's kind of like just his sort of homespun kind of common sense, and Alan, while being very pompous and talking about how we're going to take over the world, and Fido the dog, he don't want to take over the world. I quite like it here. I just really like, I like sniffing bums because that's what dogs do, right? Let's do a little speech bubble. We're almost. I don't normally draw this quickly, so it's a little bit rushed. There we go. We'll do one more colour, and we'll do a little speech bubble like this. And we're almost done. Let's just give them the world will be mine. I hope you're all doing these. So if once you've done, if you send them to me on social media, I'd love to see what you managed to do, draw. The world will be mine. I just heart buns. There we go. We'll do a few little lines like this, and there we go. That is maybe the world's quickest cartoon cat that I've ever drawn. There we are. And I will crop this back up here, and I'll stop sharing my screen. There you go. Can you see me now? Am I back? Am I back?
You're back.
Fantastic. So yeah, that's my new graphic novel. Alan, King of the Universe, zany comedy adventures, perfect for kind of reluctant readers. And I'm a great believer, if you can make kids laugh, then you can get them reading, and whether that's through kind of drawing and cartoon characters or just funny jokes. But yeah, I'm so proud of this book, and thank you very much for the Reading Agency and Hachette, of course, for letting me publish. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. Here is my attempt. You can't really see it. It's got a bow tie because I thought it'd be a bit fancy.
That's nice, fantastic work.
There's lots of people there. Amazing. Thank you so much, Tom. There's lovely comments for you in the chat box as well. So if all of our publishers and authors can put their cameras back on and unmute themselves, it is time for the Q&A part, which is always very exciting. So the first question I have is for Larry and Tom, which is there anything school or public libraries can do to support your visits and get the most out of them?
Tom, do you want to go first?
I mean, every kind of visit I've had that's involved a librarian has always been sort of fantastically organised. So as long as there's somewhere to kind of plug in and have some tech to kind of show some drawing, because it's such a great way. I used to do kind of like little 5-minute drawings here and there, but actually for kids who may be a little bit kind of reluctant, the tech is a really interesting way of getting them interested in creating, whether that's through drawing. If you get them drawing, then you can get them writing. So I sort of do lean into the tech. I'm also very aware that, like I talk to kids and say, hey, if you want to do a drawing, you don't need an iPad. Don't go home and ask your mum and dad for an iPad. But for those who have that access to technology, whether it's at home, at school, it's a really valuable tool to get people kind of interested in creating, particularly, but not exclusively, boys who may be sort of kind of, have written themselves off and kind of, I'm not a great reader and therefore books aren't for me, but start to see that they can make animations and start to do little cartoons, then you can start to get them creating and you can start to get them reading and interested in books.
Lovely, thank you. Larry?
Yeah, I'd say where I'm near Hungerford, so shout out to Hungerford Library. Libraries can be wonderful at getting me into schools. So kind of, because I'm just always trying to get the word out that if you want me to turn up and do a workshop, just give me a shout. You can just book me on simplybookme.com, and I can do locally within an hour, or I can go further afield with Zoom. And so yeah, if I'd love for libraries all over the country to get in touch and say, we've got a few schools, let's do a Zoom session, because it's so valuable for authors to get into schools. My kids are kind of 9 and 12 now, 9 and 11. And when they're older, I'll either have to stop writing children's books and write something else because I won't be in touch, or just keep going into schools and do school visits, because every time I do a school visit, I get new ideas. And so if libraries can somehow get authors, get me into schools, that would be brilliant. I would love it. So please do get in touch if you either want to visit in person, if it's in Hampshire, Berkshire, Oxfordshire, or Wiltshire, or a bit further afield, I can always do Zoom. So yeah, please do get in touch.
I saw someone, sorry to interrupt, I saw someone on the chat asking me where I'm based, and I don't know how to, I can't chat at the same time, so I'll just use words. I'm based in Devon, but I travel all over. In fact, yesterday I was in West Yorkshire, so you know, I will go wherever I'm required.
Lovely, thank you. And just to say to the librarians who are asking the authors about their availability in the chat, that it's a reminder to use the request form, so you can put all of your requests if you would like both authors to come visit your libraries and your schools in that request form, and then we'll pass it on to the publishers who can help to organise that as well. And I'm going to do a variation of that question for the publishers. Is there anything, publishers, that is really useful for the librarians to say to you when they're inquiring about an author visit, or something that would be really helpful for you've seen work really well before with some of your visits? If I come to you first, Sarah.
Oh, that's a question.
Sorry.
I guess what's helpful for us is kind of if there's any particular like authors or age like of the demographic of your libraries, or what works particularly well in like school librarians, if there's any like particular authors that are really popular. So I know like Jennifer Killick, for example, is really popular. I actually should say I didn't include it on PowerPoint, but there is more Jennifer Killick coming next year. Just dangle that. Yeah, and then again, I think like kind of the event space as well is quite a useful format, so like thing to know, so we can think about what an event might look like and how big it might be, or whether we do like a workshop or a talk, or and then also any like connections with schools, I guess, as well. It's really helpful.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Tim, don't know if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, I don't have anything particularly original to add on to that. I think Sarah did the big one for me, which is the event space and just how it can be adapted. You know, we can be quite flexible, be quite bespoke in terms of the events we put on, and we're very happy to to work with the authors and the library itself to make sure it's actually a tailored event to the space rather than just an identikit one. So that's the big one for me.
Katie, sorry to come to you last. If there's anything else you wanted to say.
I think everything's been covered. Yeah, I think just we're always really happy to work with you guys and make sure that an event actually suits the children that you have there and the audience and the space as well. So yeah, as long as we all keep chatting to each other and yeah, helping each other out, I think is the key thing to take away.
Fantastic, thank you. The next question is to the publishers. Are there any more YA books or books that could be for that older age group that you were really excited about next year? So Katie, I'll come to you first this time.
Ooh, in terms of kind of like older middle grade age, there's a third book in the Geomancer series by Kieran Mulwood-Hargrave coming out next year, and she's also a World Book Day author. So there's a mini adventure coming out in that series as well, and that's been going down really well with sort of year 8, year 9 children. It's for 9+, but definitely kind of for more advanced readers, I'd say. So I'm really excited about that. And in terms of YA, there is a really big YA book coming that we're not allowed to talk about, but I think it might be in the catalogue that is being sent around. So that's in our publisher pack. So if you look through there, there's some very exciting stuff in there that I am not allowed to say out loud.
Oh, I've got 2 publishers, 2 teasers so far. Tim, over to you.
Yeah, we've got a couple of really exciting YA projects coming actually in the first half of next year, especially. So just continuing on the horror theme from Larry, actually, we've got They Bloom at Night by Trang Tan Tran, which is really exciting. Yeah, I mean, I was actually at Yelp recently, a couple of weekends ago, and it seems that horror is such an in genre amongst that readership at the moment. It's basically a harrowing story about a teen searching for a future where she can be free from the monsters that haunt her. It kind of touches on the climate crisis as well. really affecting writing. I'm also really excited about a book called Neasy Little Things by Chanel Desamore, which is basically about a girl who goes missing at a festival in America. Her friends have to team up essentially to try and find her because the police aren't interested. Touches on kind of disparity in media and police response to Black missing teens in America, but really accessible writing. I think a really important project.
That's great, thank you. They both sound fantastic. And Sarah?
So I think if anyone's not familiar, we have our Electric Monkey imprint. So we have loads of YA, which spans from kind of the cleaner YA right up to kind of suitable for 20s and new adults. So on the upper middle grade side, we're really excited to have a new book from Jamila Gavin called My Soul a Shining Tree. And this is a really brilliant and heartbreaking novel based on a true story of an Indian World War gunner, and it's told from 4 perspectives as well. And then moving up, we have the paperback of The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson, and the second series of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder has been announced as well for the BBC adaptation, so we're all really excited about that. And then with the Twin Crowns series, which wrapped up this year, we have got spin-offs for the series coming next year. So Catherine Webber is writing Captain of Fates, and that's coming out in 2025. So that focuses on one of the love interests in Twin Crowns. And then in 2026, we'll have Catherine Doyle with King of Beasts. And then we've got a couple of really exciting kind of debuts. So Immortal Consequences, which is dark academia and very kind of secret history vibe. So it's multiple point of view. There's 6 characters. It's all set in a school where you're in purgatory and you kind of have to get out. And then Lila McKay is Very Misunderstood, which is probably one of our cleaner YAs. So that's written by Jill Sims, who is the author behind Why Mummy Drinks. Is it Why Mummy Drinks? Yes. And it's very diary style fun, kind of for those readers looking for something after Lottie Brooks, basically. So yeah, a wide range.
Thank you. No, it's great to have all of that. That's why we're here, to get all of the recommendations. So it's great. I've got a question for the publishers, and then I'll do one for everyone as well. Do you have any newsletters or lists that we can be added to hear about these releases? How do we keep in touch with you more in the long term, especially about new releases and projects? So I'll open it up to the publishers if there is. I know we've obviously got the publisher folders and delegate packs, so there's probably information in there, but if there's just anything particularly you wanted to flag, I just wanted to give you that opportunity.
At Hachette, we do have a Hachette Schools newsletter and website with lots of resources and contact details on there. So I recommend that, and we send out newsletters monthly with our suggestions and activities and things that you can print off at home. Or there's also a Hachette Children's newsletter generally, and it's on our website as well, that you can just subscribe to, and that just focuses on sort of new releases and seasonal suggestions of books. But if you would kind of like to get more of a contact detail, I'm happy to put my email address down in the chat for you to get in touch with our PR team for kind of future events. If that's okay with you guys.
Yeah, if it's absolutely okay with you, Katie, more than happy to do that. Tim, Sarah, I'm imagining you both have got newsletters as well.
Yeah, just to jump in, much the same. If you go on our website, be able to sign up to our newsletter, you can select exactly which kind of genres and types of books you're interested in. And yeah, similar to Katie, I mean, I actually work in marketing, but I'm happy to put my email into the chat, and we can pick up. But I saw a question about PLS as well, and brief copies, so I can pick up on any inquiries there, and I can also obviously send it on to the publicity team for any event inquiries. So I'll add my email address to the chat.
Thank you. Yeah, just a reminder, that request form, please use that. That way the publishers won't get inundated. And Sarah, is there anything else you want to
just to echo, we've also got a newsletter, and I'll pop my email in the chat as well. I'm in the PR team, so I can definitely field, and I also included the PR contact on our slides in the presentation, so feel free to go directly to them. I also want to add, we have our book squad, which is the Reading for Pleasure platform, which is Farshawe, Barrington Stoke, Collins and HarperCollins children's books. So that is a huge platform that we have author content, resources, and it's free for many primary schools at the moment, but it's a kind of, you'll find a whole wealth of resources. We do virtual book club events. We have kind of spotlights, title spotlights, opportunities to review, and yeah, it's all free to sign up. So do sign up.
Amazing. And Larry and Tom, what's the best way for librarians to follow you? Is it social media, or do you have newsletters?
Go first, Tom.
Yes, no, I social media, Instagram probably, because I left X obviously because it's full of terrible people these days. I'm on Blue Sky, and but yeah, Instagram. People are already I can see people are already sending me their pictures. I think who's that Becca Rees book of Alan and Fido. So super work. Yeah, come and find me on Instagram.
Thank you. And Larry, what's the best
Yeah,
place?
I'd put a word out for Threads, as I haven't quite got into. I'm on Blue Sky, but not really. So Threads and Instagram is probably, he says, multitasking and doing that in the chat. Yeah, that's the best way of getting in touch. There's, I put out the usual nonsense on Instagram, but yeah, please get in touch. That's the easiest way of contacting me. Yeah, because as I say, librarians are the gatekeepers to all sorts of children, readers, but also schools, hopefully. So please do get in touch.
Amazing, thank you. And this last question, I always feel bad in the Q&A because I feel like I'm putting you on the spot. But the last question is about funny books. Can you all think of a funny book? It can be newly published or one that you read growing up that was good for especially the Key Stage 2 age. So that's 7 to 11. If we start with you, Tom, then I'll work my way around.
One I loved, as I say, as a kind of somebody who was dyslexic and would kind of read a book and then I'd reread it, which is sort of something that I love to do because there was a familiarity about it. So I always loved sort of Adrian Mole. I talk about Adrian Mole when I go around on school visits and sort of say basically it's sort of Diary of a Wimpy Kid but set in the East Midlands, and it still makes me laugh. And yeah, so that was one that was a kind of, it changed my life. It's like, oh, this is what books can be as well.
Excellent, thank you. Sarah?
I'm gonna choose a few from recent books from the Farshall list. So I mentioned Jenny McLachlan. So we have her first author illustrator series, which is Stink. So Fairy versus Boy and Fairy versus Wizard. It's very much perfect for like fans of Loki. Really highly illustrated, illustration on every page, and just hilarious and bonkers. And then this year we had a debut called Betty Steady and the Toad Witch, by Nikki Smith-Dale and illustrated by Sarah Horn. And again, totally bonkers. There's wild catchphrases. There's a horse called Simon Anderson who wears leopard print trousers. It's just all the fun.
Great, thank you. Larry?
You all know this, but I put in a word for Lottie Brooks. My daughter, when I was shortlisted for the Lollies, I'm up against Lottie Brooks, and my daughter said, I think I'm going to vote for Lottie Brooks. And I couldn't quite believe it. And so it made me read it to see why my daughter was going to betray me. And they're very, very good. Yeah. So
Great.
for any girls especially, I guess. But yeah, I think a boy might actually get something out of it as well.
Yeah. Great, thank you. It's hard to hear from your child that they're voting for someone else, though.
I took away her phone, so she can't vote.
Lovely, thank you. Tim?
In terms of recent Bloomsbury publishing, obviously alongside The Nightmares of Finnegan Quick, which is laugh out loud funny. We also published Who Let the Words Out by Joshua Siegel, which is absolutely brilliant. He's hilarious. It's a kind of funny sort of comedy poetry collection for kids. And I wish it's the sort of book I wish that had been about when I was a child. Basically, I was very late coming to poetry, and I think if I'd been exposed to that as a child, I would have absolutely loved it rather than viewing it as this kind of high and mighty art form. And I always just want to give a shout out personally for Horrible Histories. I was quite a reluctant reader as a child, to be honest, and that was the big thing during Key Stage 2 that got me into it, and got me into reading generally and into history. So I will always fly the flag for that series.
That's fantastic. And Katie?
In terms of recent publishing, I'd probably recommend History Sinks by Susie Edge, which is a really funny non-fiction book, similar to Horrible Histories, just about all the kind of gross facts through time. And she's really brilliant. She's on TikTok, so quite a lot of kids know her already. And yeah, just puts a really funny spin on some really grim things. And of course, for future publishing, Alan, King of the Universe.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for giving up your time. It's been fantastic. There's been lovely comments in the chat box, and we'll be in touch soon with all of the requests. I think there's going to be many coming across, which is great in December. So we will share those. And a big thank you to Tom and Larry as well for coming along and speaking. It's been fantastic to have you all here. So thank you so much. But librarians, please stay, because we've now got some from the reading agency. So thank you, everyone else. Please feel free to log off and have a lovely rest of your day. And Catherine, I'm now going to hand over to you because you've got some exciting updates.
I do, thank you. I am just going to share my screen. There we go. Kimberly, can I just get a thumbs up that you can see that all right? Great, thank you. So my name's Catherine, and I am the campaign manager for national reading campaigns at the Reading Agency. I work across both adult and children's campaigns. I feel like I'm sort of the less fun part of this morning's session, following all of these just really fun and exciting books and drawing. Unfortunately, I'm not here to give more book recommendations, but I am going to tell you about some of the current things that we have going on that you can get involved in, both things for your library, but also for librarians on a personal level. So first of all, we are really excited to be working with the bookseller on the new Library of the Year Award, which is sponsored by DK and is part of the British Book Awards. This award is going to be sitting alongside other awards for publishers and bookshops, and it will celebrate the best reading project or campaign delivered by a UK or Ireland-based library between January and December 2024. And this can be a project that is aimed at either adults or children. The award aims to recognise libraries' innovation in reaching new readers and strengthening community ties, and will bring attention to the importance of libraries in creating reading communities, which is something that we are so excited about. These awards are kind of within the publishing industry, and to really spotlight libraries, we think is really important. There will be both regional winners and a national winner, and the award is open to statutory public library services in the UK and Ireland. So I do apologise to the school libraries who are joining us this morning. It is just for public libraries this year. The entries will open on the 12th of December and will close on the 30th of January. And the winner will be announced on the 12th of May at the British Book Awards ceremony. So do keep an eye out on the 12th of December. That is when all the criteria and further information about the board will be released. So yeah, please do keep an eye out for that. Have a think within your authority or within your library what reading projects or campaigns you've been working on that you might like to submit. Next up, we have the Blue Peter Book Club. So many of you may have seen that this has been running. It started in September 2023 and came up to October this year, and featured 12 books that were featured monthly on the show, with lots of supporting content on the Blue Peter website. It's great for both libraries and schools. Each of the books on the list has an accompanying bite-sized guide that is in line with the curriculum, so offers loads of extra opportunities for learning linked with these books. We also worked with Manchester libraries to bring the book club out into the local community, with lots of different activity that was funded by Arts Council England, which included a big event at Manchester Central Library. There was an art project that engaged 10,000 children. You can see in the top right picture there some birds that the children created that were put all over the library. And there was also a live CBeebies bedtime story. The book club also saw the launch of the Blue Peter book badge, which was designed by Sir Quentin Blake, and the response to the new badge has been absolutely incredible. Children across the country have been sending in reviews and pictures to earn their badge. The book club will be back in 2025 with more news to be announced soon. I'm afraid there isn't anything we're able to share at the moment, but please do keep an eye out, because we know there's going to be lots of really exciting things coming up. Now, on our adult side, but this is actually an opportunity where you as librarians can get involved yourselves. If you don't already know, we work with the BBC to choose the books for the Radio 2 Book Club. This process takes place seasonally, 4 times per year, and we ask librarians all over the country to help us by reading and reviewing the books that are submitted by publishers. There is a lot of reading involved. So each librarian will receive 6 to 8 books to read over about 6 weeks. And they're all books that are going to be published usually sort of about 6 months later. So obviously that's really exciting that you can get books before they're out for the public. So we ask you to read those books, send reviews in, and join a panel meeting either online or in person to help choose the shortlist for the BBC to select the books. I think we have a couple of people on the call today who are part of this panel, have been part of the panel for many years. So if you're able to, please do put in the chat how much fun it is, because we know our librarians really love being part of this. If you would like to join the pool of librarians, then please contact Karen McPherson. Her email's on the slide there. It's also in your delegate pack. And you'll be added to our list of librarians. Karen will then contact you each season to see if you'd like to be involved in that season. So don't worry, by signing up, you're not committing to reading, 6 books every 6 weeks. It is up to you at what points in the year you'd like to be involved in that. So that could be 1 season per year. It could be all 4. And the last thing, which is my slightly more boring slide without any photos, because this is a brand new project, so we don't have any imagery for it at the moment. This is also on our adult side, but I wanted to share it with you today in case this was something that, again, that you would like to get involved in or submit some suggestions for. So the Big Tasty Read is a campaign that we'll be running next year in partnership with BBC Arts. And it follows on from previous big read campaigns that we've been working on this year, was the Big Sporting Reads, which we know did get picked up as well by some secondary schools. It aims to address the UK adult reading crisis by using food to inspire people to read more. It will be delivered in summer to autumn 2025, and there'll be lots of resources provided to support libraries and bookshops and schools, if you'd also like to get involved, to deliver the campaign and engage your audiences. It is an adult campaign. It will be centered around a crowdsourced book list, but these will be books aimed at an adult audience. It will have fiction and non-fiction, all about food. Similar to the Radio 2 Book Club, we are looking for librarians to help us read and review the books to help curate the final list. And you can also submit your suggestions of books that you think should be on the list. So this call out goes out to the library sector. It is really chosen by librarians. So we would love to hear your suggestions of adult food themed books that you think should feature on there. So you can submit those suggestions up until the 11th of December, and you can also sign up to be a reader by the 11th of December. And if you are a reader for this campaign, we will ask you to read at least 3 books. It could be more if you are up for reading more, between the 18th of December and the 22nd of January. This has literally just opened this week, so the details aren't in your delegate pack, but they will be circulated by email, I think can be at the beginning of next week. We'll send those links around, or you can email us at campaigns@readingagency.org.uk. I can also send you the links there. Okay. And just as well as the projects and campaigns that I mentioned, we can also work with your authority on bespoke projects. So just to give a few examples, we've recently been working with Blackpool Libraries, supporting them on engaging publishers for a project that uses AR storytelling. And we've also been working with Manchester Libraries, as I mentioned, on running in-person activity around the Blue Peter Book Club. So if there's a project that you are thinking of doing, that you might be looking for a national partner, or a partner who can help you reach publishers, reach authors, where we can support you on funding applications, on evaluation of projects, please do get in touch. We would love to chat to you about something more specific and local that we can do with you. We are always opened up to new ideas. So thank you very much. I'm just going to